Greetings, everyone. Here we are, still tinkering around with this last page of this sketchbook. I was just kind of thinking how some of these ideas are not super awesome, but they're still kind of fun to do. Yeah, no, sometimes you just need to dump out your brain and make art. So while I was getting ready to do this, I was thinking, well, some of my favorite things are bad ideas. And I didn't do any research, as I sometimes will do. But with this one, I'm going to do kind of like a mashup of terrible, terrible art, which isn't really terrible. It's just, well, we'll see what happens with it. So the idea is to kind of mash up possibly two characters. I'm sure it possibly exists, and I don't see why it wouldn't, because they're popular, especially now. But could you imagine a version of, let's say, Captain America and Batman? Batman kind of works in the shadows, and Captain America is kind of like an out there American icon. Between the two, Batman has wealth, and, well, Captain America has heart and is a super soldier. So, I don't know, just sort of thinking about that a little bit. But let's see what we can come up with. There's little ideas, I guess, that sort of pop out of your head once in a while. And like I said, I'm sure there's somebody that's already done this. Because I don't see why not. Already, I don't know if I care much for the face. But Batman's such an interesting character. At least to me, I think he's interesting. He's riddled with guilt and some sort of thing that's built inside of him that doesn't cause him to change. It's not just like a Bushido code. It's like he will take justice to a certain point and then still will drop off a criminal to be dealt with by the justice system. And it's not always great, because they don't just go to prison. They might go to Arkham, and then they'll just break out of Arkham. So then you see them back out on the street again. But how do I make Captain America and Batman together? I don't know. We'll see how this goes. This might end up looking a little bit more like Hawkman. That just popped into my head, something kind of interesting. I'll have to look this up. So, the Batman, of course, is attributed to a bat, and Captain America, I think, has eagle wings. Does the Iron Eagle exist? Hadn't even really thought about this. let's say that that symbol has to be a bit more demure. What if I change that star on the face, on the cowl? Could the nose actually fit inside the star? Let's say the eyes would be in here. I don't know if we get enough room to do that. And then maybe, right? I don't know. But so could that be like a Zorro-like mask? And then do we put those eagle wings on? Yeah, so I think Captain America's ears often are exposed, so he can hear justice or something like that. But the Batman would not, because his ears would be so cartilaged, exploded, that you would recognize him when he's in his other persona as Bruce Wayne. Your ears can act a lot like a fingerprint. It can be pretty unique. If your ear is all cauliflowered up, people are going to know who you are. So let's say he wants to keep something kind of secret still, and we'll give him those eagle wings as well. What was the thing that I said earlier, name-wise? Like Iron Eagle. That was like a movie, right? With Lou Gossett Jr. back in the 80s. I don't remember the name of the actor right off. It'll pop in my head. Kind of looked like Scott Baio. Gedrick, right? Jason Gedrick. Something like that. And I think it's Lou Gossett. Anyway. So maybe not Iron Eagle. Brass Eagle. Can't be Eagle Man. We got to conceal some part of the face. What if we had ear coverings, but then had stylized, let's say, like talons, like a Spartan helmet. To cover part of the face. Now, there's a name for simple masks in television shows, movies, and whatnot, where that type of disguise, which is so obvious, is meant to be obvious so that we, the people who are watching, are aware of who that character is. Kind of like Clark Kent and Superman. You know, everybody should recognize that this tall dude wearing glasses, other than like letting the little curl of hair show up, I mean, you kind of know they're the same person. Anyway, I think that's funny. Now, I don't think you should have sharp parts on the helmet, because chances are your chin might get tucked into your chest, and who really wants to have your helmet cause you injury unless you have chest plate? Now, let's mean this up a little bit. Just for fun. And ooh, you know what? These should be stripes, like stars and stripes. You know what I mean? So let's say red stripes set in white stripes. Who do I know at DC that would get a kick out of this? Concept-wise, they probably don't care, but I'll have to check with some of my people. And I don't know. As I said, this may already exist somewhere. Blue back here, red, white, red, white, red, blue, 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 yellow, muted yellow maybe. Does it need to have a cowl or a cape? With this version of Captain America in Gotham, yeah, I don't know. Would he wear a cape? Capes are not always great. I remember seeing kind of like combined characters like this from, you know, the two main comic universes. I think there was one that was called like Nightclaw, and it was like Wolverine and Batman. But yes, if Steve Rogers somehow got a bunch of money, I wonder what kind of thing he might come up with. Because he doesn't really wear armor, he has a shield. But let's say this version, he would not use the shield as like a weapon to whack people in the head with. What if he just wore the shield? And it was just became like, you know, his armor. And part of what the armor does is it protects the others that are around him. So it's not really just about him, and he would keep the same sort of target motif. So that he would draw fire from anyone who would target the group. Now, I don't know if he would need to be enhanced the same way as Steve Rogers, or if it's all about that money and he just has the best gadgets. That seems interesting. Up through the sternum. I don't remember how many rings are around Captain America's. Shield. Speaking of shield, maybe it's like an Agents of Shield thing as well. That makes, yeah. So there's the Patriot, there's, or it could be don't know. Just silly ideas. That's what I treat my sketchbook for. For fun, let's throw a little color on that. For my sake. And then I'll mute them down a little bit or whatever after, but so yellow star. We'll drag out some of the ink that is down there, which will let that darken out a little bit. Let's zoom in just a little bit, and then we'll refine that face, and then maybe we'll do like a semi-dramatic pose. I still don't have a name for this character yet. What kind of blue do we need? Well, darker blue. Let's go with, this should be interesting. Because Bruce here still needs to do stuff at night. And you don't want to wear the brightest colors all the time with a giant bullseye on you. Wait, now, so a former Robin would go by Nightwing. What if, I don't know, Eagle Wing? I don't know if that's there. Talon kind of already exists out there. Well, maybe I'll just call this like codename Brass Eagle for now until something comes up. I wonder how often Stan Lee sat around with the artists and said, listen, we need some sort of villain, kind of like a one-shot kind of thing. So, you know, and they looked around their kitchen, they're like, oh, there's the mashed potato. So let's have this character be called the Mashed Potato. That would be funny, because they did have a lot of kind of throwaway characters. Some were kind of popular, but most of them were pretty cheesy. And red. And as I said, those would end up being kind of muted. Yeah, no, I do find that interesting so far, concept-wise. Now, I don't know what form of justice this character would have. Ooh, maybe he could be the amendment or something like that. Yeah, I don't know. And I don't know if some part of this character would be more not just a vigilante, but an actual sort of government hired or government sponsored super agent. Maybe part of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But in Gotham. So a lot of those worlds, like DC doesn't really exist in our world, in our timeline. Like they don't have a strict New York or a strict Chicago or a strict Detroit. Whereas Marvel kind of exists as a possibility or variant. So yeah, I don't have an idea for the name. I don't know if I care much for what this was, but it sort of grew into that. We'll just sort of semi-finish some of the face and that structure. Maybe maybe they could be placed a little higher, but if you're rolling on the ground on your head, you don't really need to have these things dragging on the ground either, which is a problem for Batman. So let's find a spot to put in. I didn't even really think about what to expect for the character's weapons, or is it hand to hand? I don't know. Now with those wings. So, of course, the Flash has lightning bolts. So, not the first character to have some kind of headgear. Now, I would think having everything wrap around to the front through the jawline as well. So let's say that, set back just a little bit, that, set back a little bit more. It is interesting though. You need flexibility, but you also need some kind of protection for the base of the skull. You got to protect the neck. You need a little bit of flexibility down here. Something like that, let's say. It's I'm not going to say it's a cop-out to just put a character in a trench coat, but it almost suits a character like this to do something like that. But, you know, a military uniform, stylized, I mean, that's kind of what Captain America's thing is. But how rogue should this character be? I was trying to think if, you know, would have the hammer of justice or talons, sort of like just carry grappling hooks that just hooks onto people. Actually, I don't mind that. That's a kind of a neat idea. It would throw, yeah, get over here claws. And then they could just kind of turn into bolus if necessary, where you just swing them around. And actually, let me look at that sort of, how would that kind of go? So they'd be kind of mechanical, hinged things. And there'd be something in the back. So 3 claws up front, 1 in behind for grip's sake. Let's say something like that. And maybe those talons that could extend would be built into the gauntlets of the character. So then you could just kind of shoot them away from your own hand. Actually, I like that. So these would serve as kind of like brass knuckles for CQC, yeah, close quarter combat. And then they could move away from the body if necessary and have some sort of like super strong filament, because the Batman uses grappling hooks, right? And can scale buildings and swing through the streets. I like the idea of that. That's actually pretty cool. But let's say this back claw would have to be kind of worn like bracelets. So let's draw just like a regular hand here. Something like that. Hands are fun to draw, mainly because, you know, you have them around you all the time. So I know a lot of artists like to sit around, they have mirrors, although I don't have one in front of me. It is good practice, because sometimes you make faces. You don't necessarily want to just have all your characters look exactly like you, though. But yeah, I mean, you have good reference material on your own body. And what can you move around quicker and better than your own hands? So it should be reasonably accurate to draw a hand. Anyway, so that's just a rough hand. But if we're going to have this over the body, and so let's say the main thing wears a little bit like a bracelet, and this back claw would have to be on this side because of the articulation of the thumb. If you're going to shoot this from your own hand, you want to keep your thumb. So that underclaw would end up kind of being like polydactyly. It would be an extra finger. Yeah. So you can get increased grip and not have to use your thumb for grip. Or even your own hand. Anyway, so let's see. Some kind of over the top. You know what? Let's do that in light blue marker. Now I've already done some of that. But let's say the gauntlet goes there. It needs some sort of release mechanism of some sort. The actual thing needs to be a little bit further than the actual knuckles. And the reason for that, of course, is if you're going to punch through a door, you don't want your own knuckles to absorb that. And then back underneath here, this is where you would get the sort of like the palm protector, if necessary. But this is where the back claw or talon would be. Three talon. And again, you need to be able to protect your own hand. But you could use this to scale walls. If that makes sense. Now let's darken this in a little bit so that I know where I was going. Now the mechanism itself, you would probably use your forearms as partial shields as well. So let's kind of Popeye this out a little bit, and that would hold part of the, I don't know, the cabling inside as well as the mechanism to draw you up. I mean, how many feet of cabling do you think you could store in your utility belt or something like that? I don't know. And you need to be able to not have it be so awkward. Now maybe part of the shield can kind of expand out as well. Anyway, this is just a weird little process thing. So, yeah, maybe like bonus little wings for gliding. These things can kind of fold out. don't know. I don't know. You don't want to cover the character in too many stars. And then people will call, Star-Lord or something. Starman. Hey everybody, it's Star Dude. I still don't have a name. Brass Eagle, I don't know. I don't mind that. Anyway, so getting back to this. So again, I don't know if it's going to be a trench coat, a vest, maybe. Probably not wearing a cape unless it's like I don't know. I'm not sure yet what this character should have. But what do we want for? We're going to have this, some kind of elongated gauntlet. This part's going to look ridiculous because they're going to be big brass colored knuckles. The thumb would only need to be something like that there. And yes, don't forget the mechanism, the hand part, shoots away with retractable cables. I was going to do kind of a more dynamic pose, but I got caught up in something else here, and I don't want this video to drag on too much. But yeah, no, I kind of like the idea of this. This character. How do we want that claw to look? So somehow that thing and the character's natural thumb just needs to kind of get out of the way sometimes. Need a little bit of flexibility. Some sort of nanotech something or other. Natural fingers. But then the talons. Which themselves could probably extend or quickly drill into certain types of material. I don't know. Some part of the palm would need to be protected. Okay. But yeah, we need this to look more robotic. And I don't know if it would work by intuition. So yeah, I don't know how often you folks sit down and try to do this kind of thing. But it's just kind of fun little exercises. For the brain. You need to be pretty aware with what you're doing with your hands, so for sure. But at least the back of your hand would be pretty well protected. Anyway. Now Batman, of course, wears a utility belt. Which is handy for doing cool things. You gotta have pockets. You have to have utility or purpose. Sometimes these things can get out of hand, though. If you're rolling around on the ground, you might lose a gadget or two, and some of those gadgets, they can be used to hurt people, so you need to be able to keep track of this kind of stuff. I almost think that there should be something to do with the bat, though, with this. What were some of the names? So, it's like the brass eagle. Anyway, I do think that's kind of interesting. Which is another almost kind of keeper thing from a doodle page. Yeah, I would think some version of like kind of some kind of nanotech. If you could afford to do all that kind of stuff, you could make clothing that would give you flexibility still and still provide protection against temperatures or, yeah, I don't know. What if the person's name or character's name from media was Target? I don't know. You wouldn't want the retail chain to go extreme with that. Well, that's almost 45 minutes of rambling, doodling nonsense. At the bottom of this is that. I think with this will be probably the second last. I'll do one more, probably stuff to just fill out other stuff on the page, but I do like parts of this idea more so than some of the other things. So this might be something I'd come back for. That I don't care for, but I do like this. And as I said, muted colors of some kind would be the ideal thing. Ooh, no, it would probably, I don't know, stuff that can be figured out. But I think it has pretty decent potential to being something. And let's just do the star on his face. I don't know if he needs a brass star there or not. So yeah, so you got brass eagle, maybe Target. We'll call him the first Amen, as in the First Amendment. And the arms that he bears are these claws that can be grappling hooks. Claw. Grappling. Hooks. All right, folks. I think that's it for now. It's a little more than 50 minutes. But that is a quick character development. And yeah, I don't know, maybe there could be a glider on the back that could turn into kind of like a cape-like thing, but it's meant for zipping away, gliding away, or kind of like a quick hover above the ground or something like that. Anyway, I do like that. Potential for seeing where that could go. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for joining me. And yeah, I'll probably just put one more day into this sketch area. You know, just fill in some more nonsense. And that's it for now. So I hope everyone has a wonderful day. And hopefully we'll see you again in the near future.